bring in the one and only Jesse Rogers. He joins us on the Yingling Guest Hotline to kind of recap the weekend and look ahead at the week a little bit. And depending where you look, you're talking about the second or third, maybe fourth choice in MVP odds right now, Jess, for PCA in the betting markets. And I just don't know. Nobody could have predicted this. Nobody. Maybe not even Pete Crow-Armstrong if he said you'd be chasing down Shohei Ohtani for MVP through a third of the season in 2025.
No chance. No way. Nobody. Not the Cubs, not PCA, not anybody. And that's what's so glorious about it. It's come out of nowhere. I agree with you. I don't know if it can continue with that walk-to-strikeout rate. Now, look, it's not a fait accompli. Just because you don't walk, you're going to go in a tailspin. But usually you stop getting challenged when you're not willing to take a walk. Mm-hmm. The problem is in this lineup, like I think he's absolutely a beneficiary of so many accomplished hitters around him. And the other thing is he's hitting a lot of bad balls for hits. He hasn't walked in 12 games. Now, normally, that leads to a slump, but let's run with it. Let's run with it. Maybe he's going to be a bad ball hitter and the good balls. Like he's hitting pitchers' pitches and he's hitting hitters' pitchers. I've mentioned this before. 2 weeks ago I mentioned that, and he's continued to do it. He chases a lot, but he's getting damage on it. So we'll see. Usually that walk-to-strikeout thing does catch up with you. Like you said, 9 walks on the season, not one in the last 12. But whatever, let's run with it as long as we can. He's hitting balls out of the park.
Jesse wanted us to play this Justin Turner bite, too. Just speaking about this offense, I mean, Jesse just kind of touched on it there. Like, normally you're going to stop getting challenged. That really hasn't been the case, even though he's batted in a few different spots of the order, and he's back down in the middle now that Ian Happ is back. But let's listen to Justin Turner talk about this Cubs team being maybe the best well-rounded offense he's played on. Here's Justin Turner.
It's the most well-rounded offense I've ever been a part of. And I've been on some really good teams that did things good, did some things great, but to do everything as good as this team does when you're talking about slug, walk, situational hit, drive-in runs, steal bases, take extra bases, run the bases. It's the most rounded, way above average team I've ever been on.
Let's note that Justin Turner did leave L.A. after 2022, but he was on, as he talked about, some pretty good teams and some pretty good offenses, and those 3 of those Dodger teams, I believe, that he was on went to the World Series. He won one of them. Now, he wasn't there last year when it's Freddie Freeman and it's Shohei arrives and it's all the other superfluous things that they have with that offense. But for a guy that's played in as many big games and has been around as long as he has, Jess, that's pretty high praise. And listen, he's not wrong in the way he explains this offense and all the different dynamic things they can do.
No, just go to ESPN.com stat page. You don't have to dig deep. You don't have to go to the expanded analytical sabermetric page. Just go to home runs, top 5. Stolen bases, top 3, or top 3 in home runs too. OPS, top 3. Walks, top 5. Batting average, top 5. I mean, every single thing you can think of, they're in the top of the pile there for the league, and that includes the American League. I mean, they're right there with the Yankees for a lot of these numbers. I mentioned today with Cap that no team has averaged 6 runs a game since 2007. The Jeter A-Rod Yankees did back then. The Cubs are right there, 6 per game. The 2016 championship team averaged 5 per game, exactly 1 more run per game for this year's offense through the first 2 months. Long way to go, but just an amazing, amazing run, and again, at the top of almost every category.
Despite PCA's lack of walks, and maybe that profile means like he'll never really be a true top of the order guy unless in a pinch if Ian Happ were to miss games or something like that. Despite that, and we kind of had this conversation last Monday when you were in for Jurko. I mean, there's some nuance to it, and how important is it in the ultimate strategy or success of your team and like how you stack your lineup. I still want one of my best hitters somewhere in the top 4 because I just want those spots coming up a lot. I don't. You tell me. I mean, do you want late in the game when you're chasing a run or two right now? Do you want Seiya Suzuki, Dansby Swanson, or PCA to come up in the order?
PCA, of course.
Me too. Yeah. But he's still is sort of been in that, well, he's going to bat behind Seiya for a little bit, or he'll bat behind Swanson fifth. And I know he's been in the cleanup spot a couple of times, but what ultimately are they going to land on? Do they not have to? Maybe Counsell doesn't have to, but do you think ultimately he'd like to kind of like land on a spot in the top 4 where PCA could slot in?
Yeah, I think eventually. I think on this year's team, pick a name out of a hat, you could put him up near the top at this point. Ian Happ has struggled since coming off the IL. If they started losing games and were struggling on offense, maybe they would make a dramatic change, because maybe you don't want, in this moment, Ian Happ getting the extra at-bats. But I think over the course of the season, having Happ, Suzuki, Tucker, PCA up there is fine in whatever order you want. Swanson's on a huge streak right now.
He is.
I don't mind him up there. That's what I'm saying. It's like, pick your poison. If you're the opposition, Craig Counsell's not spending a lot of time on the batting order. Let's put it that way. Just things are going too well to worry about it. But if they don't, then you start picking and choosing. This guy gets the extra bat in the 9th inning, or that guy does. But until that happens, I think he's just trying to set it up, lefty, righty, whatever the case may be. Yeah, there's not a lot of walk in PCA's game, so maybe not 1 or 2. By the way, that can come. I mean, Kyle Tucker got walk in his game.
Yeah.
He's more walks than strikeouts. He never used to have that. So it's not something you improve on dramatically all the time, but the elite guys do. And so we'll see with PCA. He's bound to get better in the walk to strikeout ratio if he continues to be a great hitter. So I think it's all going to continue to get better for him over time.
If Counsell's not worrying too much about the batting order, and rightfully so right now, what is occupying or preoccupying most of his time when he thinks about his team?
Yeah, I think it's Ben Brown. I think is there regression in Colin Ray and Matthew Boyd coming. Hidden in the great offensive weekend against the Reds was their starting pitching wasn't very good. Mm-hmm. Boyd, Ray, Brown, all showing a few cracks here and there, especially Brown, obviously. So, yeah, I think that's occupying his mind. Making sure Daniel Palencia has the right formula to be the closer at this point. I still think he's earned the right to continue to try out for that position. I don't think he's won the position, but I think he continues to earn the right to keep getting chances there in the 9th inning. So those are a couple legitimate things I think Craig Counsell is wondering about. Tate Horton's looked good. He'll get the start tonight. But there are other guys in the back end that have shown some cracks. So let's see how it looks moving forward. My guess is they don't continue to score 6 runs a game. Of course, I said that about 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. We'll see. But if they don't, they're going to need their starters to step up. And I would guarantee you, now that we're in the second third of the season, this is also preoccupying Jed Hoyer's time. What does the market look like? It looks to be a seller's market. Probably not a ton of good starters or a ton of good relievers that will be available. But the ones that are, I think the Cubs are going to be interested in.
What's the answer for Brown and how they might try to fix him, or just at least straighten him out at this point?
Take a little bit of a page from Jamison Tyan's book. Start filling up the strike zone a little bit more. Don't nibble as much. In Tyan's case, he actually needs to nibble more, and he did that yesterday, and he looked really good. Ben Brown needs to attack. Now he's got these 2 pitches, that's it, to attack with. So maybe that's also preventing him from getting through the lineup 3 times. A lot of people think a switch should be in order. Maybe Chris Flexen gets a start and Ben Brown goes to the bullpen. I mean, long term, if you're only going to have 2 pitches, the bullpen's where Ben Brown should be.
Yep.
But right now, it's funny. He'll have that bad inning, and then he'll lock it down for 3 or 4 innings. Then he'll have another bad one as he gets to 3 times through the order. So I would not be surprised if there is a switch at some point, Flexen gets some starts. At least give him a shot. I mean, I'm not saying Flexen's the answer, but at least give him a shot, and then we'll see what Ben Brown does in sort of a long man role. But right now, Counsell said no change, and as long as you're scoring 6 a game, I guess you don't have to make those changes.
No matter what they do, no matter what button they push for this offense, it works. I mean, Reese McGuire, for crying out loud, are you kidding me? But what's the prognosis long-term on Amaya, and are they going to be able to still kind of piece that together the way they have? Their catchers have hit a boatload of home runs. I'm not sure, other than maybe the Mariners because of Cal Raleigh. I don't know how many teams have more home runs out of their catchers than the Cubs.
They're either second or third right behind the Mariners. No, the Reese McGuire story is a great one. Gets called up, not supposed to start, and Carson Kelly gets ill. And so Reese McGuire hits the 2 home runs, starts Sunday and Monday. We'll see if Kelly's in there tonight. But I don't think it's great news when it comes to Miguel Amaya, meaning it's not a 2-week injury.
Right.
It's a 4 to 6 to 7 week injury, especially for a catcher. I'm hearing some rumblings that it's a grade 2 oblique strain. Grade 1 is the mildest, grade 3 is the worst. So he's somewhere in the middle there. For a non-catcher, that could be 4 to 5. This is probably a little bit longer. Could be as long as 8. I mean, I could see the All-Star game being kind of the thing. Like, do we keep him out until after the All-Star break or bring him back right before? So I think you got to be prepared for Reese McGuire, and if he struggles, then maybe Moises Ballesteros comes back up. But another injury. I mean, they've had a few and they've survived, but this is a significant one because you can't run Carson Kelly into the ground.
Right.
But Reese McGuire's off to a good start, so we'll see.
This is one of the more challenging ones, even in a deep offense. I think you're 100% right. And oblique injuries are tricky. Losing Justin Steele is the worst of the worst because you lost him for the year. But any other injury updates on like the guys on the men kind of coming back?
Imanaga back on the mound Wednesday. Javier Saad starting to throw. So slowly but surely. I mean, Imanaga is the big one. Still a ways away, though. I mean, we're talking mid-June at least, maybe even a little bit longer as he just slowly gets back into it. Probably a rehab stint of a couple starts. So, you're looking at 10 to 14 days just with rehab starts type of thing, and he's not even at that point. So could be a lot of June without Imanaga as well, and that's why, let's watch Boyd, let's watch Ray, let's watch Brown. There could be some issues there, and, I think the trade deadline is going to be very interesting for Jed Hoyer, even with Imanaga back.
Okay, anything else we need to know?
I got one thing for you, Yerk. Look, here's a guy in Carmen.
Jess?
Here's a guy in Carmen that calls the fouling at the end of an NBA game unappealing, but he's all for the tush push. No problem with the tush push. That's not unappealing, but fouling at the end of the game is. Come on,
well,
Carmen.
no, fouling in the situation like last night when you're up 3.
Yeah,
I don't know that there's any way around that. I don't think it's very aesthetically pleasing. What I don't like about banning the tush push, while I might agree with you guys that it doesn't look great, I don't think a team should be penalized for doing something better than everybody else.
And that's where I ultimately agree. I just can't believe we're not seeing 15 to 20 teams perfect it. Maybe it is more difficult than I think to perfect. But now that they've kind of put a rubber stamp on it, I do think other teams have got to try it. I mean, it's a guaranteed first down.
I think
almost always.
I think this thing's going to go to another round of voting. It's like the Hall of Fame, Jess. They got so close. They're going to go next year. This is going to come up again, and it's going to pass, right? Like the band's going to pass. Don't you think?
Only if other teams start to dominate.
Maybe.
Because you're right. If one team is dominating, that's not enough to make a rule change. I sort of agree with that.
They still
but
came
I do
close.
think it's unappealing.
But I
do think it's unappealing.
Yeah, and they still missed it by just a couple of votes. Do the Sox have, if Adrian Hauser continues, do the Sox have a guy that teams might be knocking on the door come the trade deadline? Everybody looks for pitching, right?
Yeah, everybody does. And the Sox aren't going to trade their young pitchers, but Adrian Hauser's come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And, I mean, hell, Craig Counsell knows Adrian Hauser from his Brewer days. So, you know how it is, though. It really doesn't matter what you're doing in May. It matters what you're doing closer to the deadline. So another month of Adrian Hauser could look different. I do think somebody's going to jump the market at some point, whether it be Miami trading Alcantara and a team willing to give up some assets early on. But for the most part, I think it's going to be a seller's market. It's going to develop late because everyone's going to try to figure out what their needs are in July. Yeah. But Hauser absolutely could open some eyes and be a trade candidate for sure.
You're going to have a lot of teams in it too. So, all right, it'll be interesting. Jess, thank you, and we'll talk to you next week, okay?
You got it, boys.
Right.
Take care, Yerk.
See you, Jess.
All right, buddy.
There's Jesse Rogers with an update on the Cubs.